On the podcast this week, have you ever wondered how they calculate business rates? Well, we're about to reveal all. Welcome to the Profit Cash Growth Podcast. This is the podcast for 6 and 7 figure business owners who are looking to grow a financially successful business. My co-host, Claire Hancott, is a finance director, chartered accountant and entrepreneur. And every week, I'll be exploring guidance and frameworks designed to help you increase your profits, improve your cash flow and grow your business. So there's a joke going round in America, and the saying of the joke goes, America innovates, China imitates, Europe regulates. Where's the joke?
Yeah, we are the butt of the joke, aren't we?
I feel like, we are the butt of the joke. To what degree do you agree with that statement? I think it's been proven in these last few weeks, isn't it, with this whole DeepSeek thing. You know, you've got innovation, America, imitation out of China, and I guess by the time it comes here, we'll regulate it through the European Commission.
There is a lot of innovation in this country. You know, we saw that in COVID with how quickly the UK responded with vaccines and stuff. But
we don't keep it here, do we?
We don't keep it here. We have this weird thing. So in, like Silicon Valley is a great example over the last 25 years or so, where these big businesses have been innovative and then the businesses have grown in America. But in the UK, we have an amazing science and technology industry, particularly around sort of where we are around like the Cambridge-Oxbridge arc. What's it called? The Oxbridge arc.
The Golden Triangle, as they call it, don't they?
Something
London,
like that.
London, Oxford.
I don't know. Rachel Steves was going on about something, but we have amazing innovation here, but our ideas we sell off. We sell them to other countries and they make the money.
We can't raise the capital here, can we?
Yep, it's a very...
People don't want to put their capital in this country.
And it's very difficult to get businesses off the ground and... Because
of the regulation, yeah?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, the regulation, the cost of doing business here, all of those.
So maybe that saying is, there's a lot of truth to that joke saying that's out there in America, but...
Yeah, but also this is one of the things that we speak about, one of the reasons why the UK economy is so strong and is so internationally known as being stable is the fact that we do have a lot of regulation.
Yeah, the laws and regulation.
We've got one of the oldest legal systems in the world and that brings with it a lot of stability. So there are some benefits to it.
I don't know if many people would agree with that of late. I mean, we're all over the shop. We used to be known for stability. I think, it's... more challenging now, isn't it?
But I think, when you think about like places in Latin America and in the Middle East and things like that, some of the...
But you can only compare yourself against G7, can't you? You can only compare yourself about other development. If you compare yourself to Latin America or the Far East, I mean, it's insane. It's so corrupt, it's unbelievable. But I guess against our peers, it's... Are we falling behind? Well, we'll find out in this week's news story of the week. So this week's news story of the week, record rise in UK businesses in severe financial distress, Claire. And this is not the first news story of the week that we've had talking about the way in which businesses are going at the moment. It seems to be in one direction. Yeah,
and to be fair, though, this has been something that we've been talking about for quite a while now. It's about this sort of zombie businesses.
Yeah, it's this shift in interest rates and shift in the cost of capital, isn't it?
Yeah, these businesses, actually a lot of the businesses that are going bust now, a lot of them have still got bounce back loans and things like that they've never paid off. And, should these businesses have folded 5 years ago? Probably. But many, many businesses have been able to get by because taxes have been okay and generally the cost of business has been low and the cost of getting finance has been low. So these businesses have been funded essentially on these bounce back loans for a couple of years and, 19% capital corporation tax. And so they've been going when actually they're not really viable businesses.
Yeah.
And now
just about getting by businesses.
Just about getting by, just about paying the salary. What I found really interesting is I looked back at the statistics. So we haven't seen the sort of record highs that we're seeing. We last saw around 2009.
Yeah, just after
the financial crash. So that sort of puts it in perspective for people, the pressure that small businesses are feeling at the moment. But pre last economic crash, sort of the average insolvencies per year between 2000 and 2007 was about 16,500 a year. And over the last 5 years, so 2019 to 2024, the average has been 20,000. So it's only up by about 24%.
Well, the number I've got here says that quarter on quarter, the number's 46,853 in the final 3 months of 2024.
Yeah, I know.
That's up 50%.
But when you
massive.
look at the record number of businesses that closed during COVID.
Yeah.
So that is what you've got. I think when you take 1 year alone, you can make a headline out of it. Like during COVID, there was record lows of businesses becoming insolvent because they got these bounce back loans that were keeping them going. So I think now businesses have got to the point where they filed their accounts, they realise they're not making any money and they just think, sod it, let's get out of this.
That sounds massive. The number of businesses showing signs of critical stress rose 50% quarter on quarter to 46,000. Oh, so is that 46,000 a year?
Yeah.
Are they just being clever with the headline there?
Yeah, you can't take individual quarters and individual...
So 46,000 is for the year up to the final quarter of 2024.
I don't know where those statistics have come from because I took my statistics from Statistica, which is a government website.
Yeah, this is Begbie's Trainer.
I think that's American.
Yeah.
But it's similar
Insolvency
headlines in the
specialist.
UK. Yeah, it's similar headlines in the UK. So
no, this is UK. It's definitely UK because it's the whole thing's about UK businesses. So it's a massive number. If you're saying that just after financial crisis, we're talking about 26,000 and it's at 46, it's huge, isn't it?
What I would say is that quite strikingly, about 50%, about 45 to 50% of these insolvencies are in construction and retail.
Say that, yeah. 6,830 of them are in construction.
Construction overwhelmingly
difficult business to be
is a very difficult business to be in. There's so many elements to the supply chain that make cash flow incredibly difficult. And often these businesses are profitable and it is just purely cash flow. You know, all of their cash is coming from one project.
They can push them all go like a domino, can't they?
Yeah. So you see this when these big companies go under, that it sinks loads of people in the supply chain. And obviously construction is a massive part of the UK as well.
A few big high profile ones as well in the last year. So obviously Homebase, Carpet Right, the Body Shop. We talked about the Body Shop, didn't we? Although you're so excited about Homebase being bought out by the Range for some reason.
I mean, the thing is, though, you look at Homebase, Carpet Right, Body Shop. Did anybody think, oh my God, that's an amazing business? I can't believe it's gone under. And I know that sounds brutal.
I guess Carpet Right, I mean, they weren't because they felt like they were business on the last legs for the last 10 years, didn't they? You walk into Homebase, it felt run down. You walk into Carpet Right, it felt run down. They weren't making the margins they needed to be great businesses, were they?
Yeah.
And it's dead obvious. It's really obvious when you walk into a business that clearly isn't making the margins to keep going. It's like the old thing about when you go to your local Indian restaurant or whatever else and the bill's nowhere near as much as it should be and the toilets are falling apart, there's no lock on the door, the flush is broken. Like, you just realise these businesses are in distress.
But I don't think it's necessarily you realise these businesses are in distress, but you just realise that these businesses are not doing anything to wow you, you know, even down to the fact that they
invest, are they? Clearly, in even a toilet flush or a lock on the door. That's
no, okay, but take the Indian out of the equation because that's the tiny business. That's completely different. You go into Carpet Right, and Carpet Right hadn't changed for 30 years
because it
had the same sleazy salespeople, the same big bundles of carpets that you could sift through, the same for sale sign on the door. Like, it hadn't changed for 30 years. And you go into the Body Shop, and again, similar. The Body Shop hadn't really changed. We've had this massive growth of like online web shops and this beauty industry being born mostly out of Instagram and TikTok. The Body Shop didn't really respond to that.
And again, if you looked at their numbers, I'm guessing it's tighter and tighter. So they just if you're not making the profits, you can't invest in your business, can you?
That is
true. You can't make the showroom feel nice. You can't put a load of capex into a Carpet Right to make it look beautiful and employ the very best salespeople if you're not making good profits.
That is true. And I think that is something that businesses need to be aware of, is that, you know, we've seen this, the classic one is Kodak, isn't it? That they didn't innovate, they didn't do anything different, they didn't keep up with the times, and eventually you go under.
Yeah.
And I think that the likes of the Body Shop and Carpet Right and Homebase, they just became complacent with what they were doing. They thought, you know, our business model's fine, we're making good money, and then, you know, you have a couple of bad years and things start to turn and you don't respond quick enough and all of a sudden your business is gone. I think Homebase is a little bit unusual because that was bought out by Bunnings, and obviously Bunnings made some
just messed around a lot.
Very strategic mistakes with getting rid of Habitat and the
estate
home
that was
range
just all over the place. Yeah, that's just a catalogue of bad sell-offs, decisions and various other things. But I mean, the problem is with this, you never really know what's going on under the hood of these places. I mean, it could be the total opposite. They've moved around. They could have made a load of decisions and innovated all over the place where they thought it was the right decision and it just didn't work out. Time and time again, it killed them. You never really know the story, do you, of these until you delve right into it.
I think if any of those businesses had done these strikingly interesting innovations, whether they worked financially or not, I think we would have known about them, because
it's like the Jaguar thing. I mean, it could make them, it could kill them. We don't know yet, do we?
No, but we know about it.
We do know,
and I think that's the thing.
That was ridiculously bold, though, wasn't it? I mean, it's almost too most as they would say it's too bold. It's too the other way. It could kill them. So you just don't know, do you, what's going on under the hood of these businesses? But
yeah, it's
like you say, where's their place in the market? I mean, the reality is that carpet rights, like, there's a massive market for carpets, but like you look at like Tappy or whoever raised up through the ranks. They just take that market by being better, don't they? I guess.
Yeah, just being a bit modern. You can order samples online.
Not inventing anything new. They're just be a bit better in a
also
market.
I very much expect with people, so many people moving into new build houses now as well, that your house comes with carpet. You pick that when you buy your house, and so who's carpet right serving? People that are refurbing their homes only, and so probably their marketplace has also shrunk a little bit. I expect as well.
So with this rise in the number of businesses going insolvent, and we saw this with if it's so much higher than post financial crash, doesn't what comes next mass unemployment? Why not? Or do we think that just the demographic of these businesses are businesses that don't really employ people? They're not going to hit that. But it's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because like it should, like chicken and egg, it should come next, shouldn't it?
Well, if you think
where the jobs going for these 46,000 businesses,
the businesses that are going under construction, and there's a chronic shortage of construction workers in this country. Actually, in fact, this country we have like a job shortage list that sort of drives whether people can migrate to the UK or not, and 25% of those jobs are in construction. So I think I think it's like 1 in 6 skilled construction jobs are now filled by foreigners. So actually, are we going to see unemployment in the construction industry?
No, because they're just going to be digging new runways, aren't they? So,
well, exactly. We're going to be building our first runway since 1940, which I thought was a staggering statistic considering we live near London Luton and that was built in the 70s. So, yeah, but anyway, back to what we were talking about. So, yeah, we're not going to see job shortages or we might see mass redundancies, but there is a massive skill shortage in the construction industry anyway. So,
I wonder if this will compound with the fact that
any impact of that. And then, yes, where we are going to see mass layoffs is in the retail and hospitality, which obviously makes up a lot of the other proportion of insolvencies as well. So,
which will be at a time now on top of all the other redundancies from the big firms that are laying off to pay the national insurance bill. So you've got this thing between now and April. You've got very, very profitable firms like trying to keep their profitability, laying people off. Insolvencies at their highest. Obviously, those jobs are going back into the market. But you are right. We know that in most sectors, people just can't employ people. So maybe it won't be a problem because we just have a chronic problem with enough people to work in most sectors. But your sector, my sector, it's construction, everywhere you go.
There is a shortage of skilled workforce. There is not a shortage of unskilled bodies. I think that's what we're not lacking. We are lacking skilled workforce with life skills that are capable of holding down a job and turning up to work on time and having a responsibility and being relied upon.
If they've come out of those employment, they've got that, haven't they? Because they have been employees.
Especially, the likes of some of the big employers like, Homebase, the skill level of the retail staff there, this is obviously quite a broad brush statement.
They've got head office and buyers and they've got lots.
But they've also got a lot of systems like clocking in systems and things like that to manage their employees. They're managing them. They're not training them to have these life skills so that they can.
But most of the people that were shortage of are like care workers. They're that level, aren't they? That we need to repatriate around.
You have to be skilled to do care work to a certain degree. There are some where you can just enter it, but generally it's skilled care workers that we're missing. Yeah. But I think that's a sort of a misconception, is that we're missing certain skills in the UK. We're not necessarily missing quantity of bodies to work. But to put a bit of a positive spin on this, I think that this is a fantastic opportunity for the businesses that are left, because if we're going to see the bottom sort of 20-25% of businesses shut, there's still generally the same level of demand. So it's a great chance for small businesses to increase their market share, pick up new customers. And also when you're thinking about maybe expanding, so for example, like getting a new office, there's going to be plenty of commercial properties being empty at short notice and things like that, where the landlords are just looking to cover their losses. Again, employees, there's going to be lots of employees hitting the marketplace due to redundancy, and equipment as well, secondhand business equipment and things like that, particularly if you're like an asset heavy business, you probably pick up some fantastic machinery and equipment at quite a cheap rate as well. So there's
a standard period of consolidation that you see. It's the consolidation you see in times when the markets get a bit tougher, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Makes good sense. Great. Well, let's move on to this week's deep dive. So this week, Claire, we're going to talk about guiding people through how business rates are calculated. This is more of a knowledge bank and a knowledge sharing, isn't it? Because we've done a lot of work this week with your office on business rates, and we just want to really share with people so they're aware how the VOA, the valuation office, calculate business rates and how that can affect you. And this becomes particularly pertinent if you're looking at a building where it's not already valued, isn't it?
Yeah, so we are upgrading our office. Our team's expanded and we've run out of space. So we are moving to a new office, and the office that we went for is currently occupied by another business as part of a larger plot. And they're now there's like an individual office block that we're now going to rent from them. But it meant that when we moved in, we actually have no idea what the business rate is going to be.
Yeah.
So it was quite a significant risk because we think it's right on the cusp of whether it would or wouldn't qualify for small business rates relief. And the difficulty we've got is that if it gets a rateable value over £15,000, then we get the full hit of business rates, which would be about £1,000 a month. And so that's quite a significant extra cost that we've got to find. So
not that significant with your business.
It isn't, but it is at the same time. You know, when we're looking at that versus a different office that we could take where we've got a guaranteed cost to it and it's half the price, I think that's what we're trying to weigh up here.
Yeah.
So we have one office, and you know, literally, if those business rates would have doubled the cost of having that office, essentially.
Sure, exactly. And this works for the other business. This works for them because they get to reduce their business rate, so they're happy to just wash their hands of it, aren't they? So.
Yes. So I'm going to talk to you about what I did to research and find out what I think the business rates will be.
Yeah. To the, the best, factually correct position you can get to, really, isn't it? You can't ever be 100% because there's no guarantee until they value it. But
this is also very relevant for service accommodation, service offices, because this is the other options that we were maybe looking at as like a short-term thing. You move into a serviced office and they can tell you the square footage you've got, but generally most tenants have different square footage. So they can't necessarily tell you what the business rates are going to be. Or if it's a new office environment as well, so new serviced office, then they wouldn't know what the individual bills would be until they register it with the valuation office. And that's where...
Do you pay business rates on a service office?
Mm-hmm.
I thought I didn't know that.
Historically...
I thought the point was I thought the point is you didn't have all that hassle because you can get in and out within a few weeks, a month, whatever.
So historically, it used to be generally serviced offices were sold sort of this all-in package, including rates and utilities and everything included. But now the landlords have got a bit more savvy and they know that they just say, we're not registering for business rates. The individual businesses that are registered here must register for business rates.
And pretty much everyone's under the threshold, so nobody pays any business rates.
Yeah.
So
and
the councils can't like that, though.
No, the councils don't like it. And actually, there's a lot of sort of chatter about this happening at the moment because another industry where we've seen this happening is self-storage.
Yeah.
Where the individual self-storage units are let to businesses, even for storage purposes, and then the owner of the self-storage location says, you're responsible for your own business rates. And actually, it's the councils that are losing out overall. Yep. So I do expect at some point this to be changed. But, certainly for the short, it's not changing. So I will talk you through what I did to figure out what my business rates will be. So firstly, to qualify for small business rates relief, this was the important thing that we wanted to make sure that we did qualify for. You must have a rateable value of less than £12,000 a year, and you must only have one commercial premises. So if it's your only commercial premises, it's less than £12,000 rateable value, you pay no business rates. If you have a rateable value between 12 to 15,000, then you get a tapered rate.
Right.
So basically, if you are at 13,500, you pay 50% of the bill. If you're at 15,000, you pay 100% of the bill. It's kind of tapered like that. For every £3 you get a 1% reduction.
Yeah.
So I knew what the threshold was. I was trying to aim for this £12,000 threshold. And then the valuation office is a little bit like council tax. It's based on a historical valuation, but commercially they're a little bit more up to date. The last time they did this was in 2023, and the valuation office tends to revalue properties every 5 years. Yeah. So it's a rateable value every 5 years. Now, interestingly, the small business rate relief does not get scaled every 5 years.
Oh, that's a good question, actually. So when was that 12,000? How long has that been frozen at 12,000, given the inflationary times we've been through in the last few years of sort of 30%?
Yeah, I don't know how long that's been frozen, but it certainly didn't increase in 2023 when they revalued all the properties.
You can bet your bottom dollar it's probably not. It's probably way out of kilter like everything else, once again.
Exactly. So it's just another form of stagflation, isn't it?
Yeah, another taxation. Yeah.
So generally, if you've got a commercial property, so generally offices, warehousing space, anything like that, generally there's you need to understand how the valuation office would measure the size of the property that you've got in square foot or square meters.
Yeah.
And then you need to understand how they would value it. So there's two different elements to it.
Yeah. And the big thing is they treat it in two distinct ways, don't they, that you've learned this week, depending on the type of property.
Yes. So generally, there's two methods, the NIA or the GIA, and that stands for net internal area or gross internal area. So generally, offices and most retail spaces will be valued using the NIA, so the net internal area. And basically, they take the usable internal space of the building. So they remove walls, they remove pillars, they remove stairwells, toilets, communal entrances, anything that's not really usable by your business, they remove.
Yeah, but they do include kitchens. That's important.
They do include kitchens in your staff breakout area. Yeah,
staff breakouts. Yeah.
So that will give you your net internal area. Or they use gross internal area, and gross internal area tends to be used for more industrial buildings. So
houses.
Not necessarily warehouses. It depends on the makeup of your warehouse. Sometimes you could be NIA or GIA, but generally it's more like manufacturing plants and things like that. They'll do on GIA, and that's the gross internal area. So it's essentially the entire internal space of your building from like wall to wall. Now, the main significant difference here is with regards to external areas. So if you're using net internal area, actually they add on car parking spaces, whereas with the GIA, they don't include external space.
Yeah.
So once you've worked out whether you should be NIA or GIA, and there's actually a really good short video on the Valuation Office Agency that tells you exactly how to do that calculation.
So where do we find that?
It's on YouTube. We'll put it in the show notes because it's literally only a couple of minutes, but it just really explained it really well with the nice little graphic. And
yeah, is there a place to go? VOA? What should we be Googling? Where do we find all this information?
Well, this is the annoying thing: is it's not that easy to find this black and white, because a lot of people, if you Google business rates, a lot of people end up at their local council website, but their local council doesn't really have anything to do with valuations, and that's the valuation office. So if you try and find business rates, you'll be pushed to your local council, but your local council will just tell you how they're going to bill you. They'll be like, well, the valuation office set everything. And then if you go to the valuation office website, obviously it's a government website. There's a lot of technical guidance and a lot of information that you've got to read through to find those little golden nuggets that you need, which is why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah, because you've done all that hard work for us.
So once you know how your building's going to be measured, you understand the metre square, which is what you're trying to understand is the metre square that you're going to be charged on. And
so if I just break this down so I really understand this. So if I take NIA, net internal area, just for people listening. So I'm measuring the internal areas, but I'm not including the toilets. I'm not including the stairwells. I'm not including any communal areas if they're shared with other businesses, for example. And I'm actually not including the internal partition walls. If they're, usually they're going to be marginal because they're not going to be that thick. But if they were dead thick, you could take that out. And what's left is theoretically what they will value the square footage of the building at.
Yeah. Plus
car parking spaces.
Yeah. And if you've got external balconies and things like that as well, they could take that into account.
Is it
garden
a standard size per car parking place, do you know? Or do they go and measure your car parking spaces?
It's £350 per parking space.
Okay, they just charge a standard £350 per car parking space. And because you have 4 in yours, didn't you? Yeah.
5. It does make a difference whether they're shared parking spaces, whether it's allocated parking spaces. So we've got like 5 private parking spaces, which is why it's £350
they're included
per parking space.
Into it. Yeah.
So once you've worked out how your building's going to be measured, you can work out what the square meterage would be. Then you need to work out what the valuation method will be.
Yeah.
Now, most commercial properties, so offices, retail spaces, warehouses, industrial units, things like that, generally they are valued using a rental method, and that's the rentable value on the commercial market.
Yeah.
That if you've got something very specific like a pub or a hotel or, you're a real niche business, then there are different valuation methods. So for example, pubs are valued on the expected turnover that a pub of that setup could achieve. So there are some very specific industries that
niches that have specific things.
Yeah, so but generally if you're looking for warehouse space, office space, retail space, then you're going to be talking about the rental method, and that is supposed to be reflective of the open market rent. Okay, so once you understand your measurement, you can apply a valuation to each metre squared. Yeah. So if you've got 1 metre squared of office space, it might be £100 per square metre. Why
might it be? How do we know what price per square metre it's going to be.
Yes, and this is where that nuance is. I know my new office, I know exactly the square footage of it, but I don't know what valuation they're going to apply to it. And that's the difficulty.
So there's no standard.
There's no standard because if you're in the town centre, so your price per metre square is £160 a metre square. Now, I'm on a industrial estate, so office on an industrial estate in a lower grade office that maybe is a bit run down, needs a bit of decorating versus your swanky town centre office, maybe in prime London, they're going to have completely different prices per square metre.
Even the same they're 2 miles from each other, but one's town centre, one's out of town.
One's industrial, one's new, one's older.
What are we talking about the differences? Mine's 160. What did yours?
I think mine's going to come in at about £85 a square metre.
Whoa, half price.
Half price, yeah.
Same towns, wow.
But this is the difficulty,
Madness.
Is you don't know what value the valuation office is going to place on your specific property, because it entirely depends on the location, the amenities, and for example, like if you've got a room that's an unusual shape, so one of the rooms in our building has got a triangular shape, so I know that they apply 3% downgrading to that, and I get a 3% discount because it's non-standard shape. Yeah, if you've got a communal hallway, for example, if you've got a communal entrance, they apply a downgrading to that.
Methodology, which is what kept secret. They don't really publish. They don't say, if your prime town centre is going to be more, it's this. They don't really publish that. But you're getting, by looking at other businesses, we're going to talk about this in a minute, aren't you? Then you're getting a feel for what that looks like. So you've tried to get a bit of an inside. You've found a way of hacking the system, haven't you?
What you can do is you can go onto the valuation office agency, put in the postcode, and every commercial property with that postcode or, within a radius will come up. And then you can go onto each property and it breaks down the metre squared and what valuation has been applied to it. So I know I could go on the entire industrial estate that we're on, which has got about 150 properties, and I can see that the maximum price per square metre applied to office space was £105 and the minimum price was £64 per square metre. So I know that my office is going to fall somewhere between 64 and 105.
Oh my God, Claire. This is pause this. This is a top tip moment, isn't it? You've just given us a complete top tip pack. So just tell us again, repeat that again, because how can you find out? Because we don't know what the value is, but you can get a good idea by...
Yeah, so put your commercial properties postcode into the valuation office agency.
Yeah.
You can see the breakdown of every property and how their business rates are calculated.
You can look at your neighbours.
You can look at your neighbours. You can see the square footage and the valuation applied to the square footage.
So you can start to look at, as you look at them all, you can start to write down what the lowest possible one is and what the highest possible one. And to be conservative, you can take the highest possible one, assuming that you probably won't be any higher than the highest one of the neighbour, and calculate it based on that to see what the worst case scenario will be.
Yeah.
And anything under that is a benefit.
Yeah.
Great top tip.
And what they will do is they will break your building down. So if you've for example, got a 3,000 foot warehouse with a 3,000 metre squared warehouse with a 500 metre squared office, then they're going to value those two things separately. So you'll get a valuation rate for the warehouse, you'll get a valuation rate for the office. So pretty much on an industrial estate, pretty much every building will probably have warehouse and office space. So you can literally just go through them all and find what the maximum and what the minimum is.
Amazing.
Then you can apply that to your metre squared, do your calculation, figure out where do you sit, what do you think your business rate is going to come in at.
Brilliant. So you've done all your calculations. Everyone wants to know, were you under, were you over? Where do you think you're going to come out?
I don't think we're going to be over the 15,000. So I think we're going to get a small business rates discount, but I don't think we're going to be under 12,000 and get it for free.
Yeah. I thought we were like at 80-something% of it or something like that. But
I do think actually the business rates is... I do think you could get quite a sizable property, like as a small business. You can
really, before it kicks in. It's amazing how much, because the office you're talking about, you probably get 25, 30 people in there if you needed to. It's unbelievable, really.
I mean, that would be quite tight.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be packed in like sardines.
From the office you have to the size team you've now got.
Yeah, I think that office would probably do us for another 3 to 5 years. We'd probably fit about 15 people in there and be fine. So yeah, you can get quite a sizable office, and it's not in bad condition. It's just been refurbished. It's maybe not to quite the standard that we would like, but it's a nice office. It's got allocated parking. It's a nice quiet area. Got a little garden. So I think actually the small business rates relief is quite good, actually. And the fact that it's tapered, I think the argument would be is whether those rates stay as low as they are and for how long.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was thinking about this when we were doing the notes to this episode, and we're always very quick to sort of bash the government for their various things. But there are a couple of things that they do that I think are really progressive. That's obviously the NI allowance for small businesses. It doesn't kick in. So realistically, you can employ probably 2 or 3 people before you're really having to pay NI anyway.
Yep.
That really kicks you off and gets you going as a very small business. And then business rates as well. I think, you can, it doesn't work very well for retail stores because their rateable value is very high. So you're kicking into that straight. This is where they've got this real problem, isn't it, between industrial and office versus retail? Because, my place, if it had a shop front on it in the town, that'd be 30 odd grand that I'd be rated at a year.
But it's also the difficulty of
very expensive
like
business rates.
When we were looking at office space, there was there was probably about 10 empty locations
Shops
in the town centre that were either for lease or for sale. But it's completely prohibitive to then go and put an office in the town centre. And I understand that the town centres, they want retail spaces in there, but the office space drives the footfall to some of the like lunch, like the cafes and the coffee shops and the sandwich shops and things like that. It drives that kind of footfall into the town as well. So I think that perhaps the balance isn't quite right at the moment in high streets versus
retail,
industrial estate. But
broader business rates that, it does help people get to where they need to get to before the point where they've got to pay business rates as a sizable business. So I think that's a cool thing. Because
my office space in a town centre, I expect I would have a business rates bill of about 25,000 a year.
It'd be a lot. Yeah, I agree. Brilliant.
Literally.
Thanks, Claire. Well, every week's a learning week. This week you've had loads going on, from recruitment through to office and learning about how the VOA do all of their valuations. So it's cool. And thanks for sharing all of that with us this week, Claire. Appreciate that. And let's move on to this week's Profit Cash Growth Extra.
So we've been enjoying The Jackal, haven't we, Simon? Is it on
Day
Sky?
of the Jackal.
The Day of the Jackal. It's
is
so
that our
good.
Profit Cash Growth Extra?
No.
Day of the Jackal? No,
but it inspired the Profit Cash Growth
It did
Extra,
inspire it.
Because, we've absolutely loved it. It's got Eddie Redmayne in it.
It's like a mini James Bond series, isn't it? It's brilliant.
Yeah, do you know what? It did actually.
Really,
I think the final episode,
stuff.
It did have a real James Bond feel to it.
It's got the woman from the last James Bond, the lady. She was in the last one.
I don't know what her name is, but she's very good. Yeah, the whole thing, excellently written, very, very watchable. We could easily binge a couple of episodes a weekend or a night. So if you haven't seen that, do check it out. But it did inspire our Profit Cash Growth Extra, because at one point he needed to assassinate somebody and the only way to get to them was from a boat. And of course, if you're a sniper on a boat, you can't take a shot because your boat's bobbing up and down. So what he used was a gimbal. And
actually, do you know what? I didn't realise you were going here with this. Are they called gimbals even when they're for the snipers?
Yes.
Oh, are they? Cool.
Yeah. So a gimbal is basically a piece of equipment. A stabilizer. So if you, like, for example, if you're walking around, like cameramen use them in like professional shoots and stuff, it's how they can move around and the camera stays static and doesn't sort of bob up and down with them. And we do a lot of filming, like podcast filming, and you do a lot of filming. You have a property of the week filming that you go out and do, and you're moving around with your camera. And if you just have an iPhone, it can look a bit amateur. So you have really a gimbal, don't you?
Yeah, got a brilliant gimbal. DJI Osmo 3. Anything by DJI is good. The same people that do the drones and all the rest of it. Maybe less than 100 quid. Absolutely brilliant. Chargeable. Put your iPhone in it. It's production quality.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Smooths it all out and really makes it really, really good. You can move around all over the place. So again, any reason, I mean, you should be, no matter what business you are, you should be doing some form of content marketing at some point, whether that's product, service or whatever it is, even if it's just to do a short film for your website or something like that.
Even if it's just a bit of filming in your office, the team at work, that kind of thing.
But don't hold your iPhone. It does look awful. Get a gimbal for how small amount of money it is. And it smooths everything out and makes it look uber professional. You don't need lots of expensive camera equipment. Just a gimbal and an iPhone now is absolutely spot on.
Yeah. So get a gimbal and don't use it for sniping people.
That's our tip of the week, indeed. Thanks for joining us for another podcast. Hope you enjoyed that one. As always, I just ask if you don't mind sharing this episode with anybody you think who will help. It will help them to learn more about business rates if they're going through the process at the moment of getting a property. And as always, if you think you might have outgrown your current accountant and you'd like to chat with Claire and the team at Profit Cash Growth, go to the website profitcashgrowth.com. On there, you can book a free financial health check, which is the first step step to understanding more about the finance of your business and how we may be able to support you, go back through the back catalogue. Loads of free evergreen podcasts available, all with lots and lots of juicy nuggets to help you grow your business. And we will see you almost definitely next week.